You're listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
Here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. And the microphone that I'm using is actually one that, or not microphone, headphone that I'm using. I believe with the best headphone for me. It looks like there's a lag here. That's kind of strange. Hopefully it disappears. However, it's a headphone that I thought would be open ear and work great. They delayed it by a day, and from what I can tell, they're trying to get me to send it back. I mean, they're operating paranoia into a victim's life. That's a form of mental illness on their part and what they're trying to put in the other people. They should be in prison. Every day you don't put them in prison, the earth goes down a little further. And again, I don't agree that this is earth, but this is what you will call it. If you look at the Bible, all those people could be wrong. And the question is, what did they say? Did they say this planet or did they say Earth? So when it was translated, they may have made the error, because this is not the place that God created. This is not the garden. This is not the planet around the garden. So it's either, again, there of psychological operation. Witchcraft can cause that, and then the other one being a physical. Although when they engage in the physical psychological operation, the witchcraft is present. That's no doubt. I mean, people are not normal anymore, and they're just devils, demons, antichrists, witches, and sorcerers, and they will cause the things they say that shouldn't exist so they can elevate themselves. And of course, they're not elevating, they're putting themselves in hell one day. So it looks like they're trying to get me to return these headphones, but I knew they would work. I might return the other ones, actually, because there's no volume in those, and I don't know how anybody could use them. I need more of an open air headphone. If you don't know, if you close with headphones, it causes, much more wax buildup, all sorts of things. Something's clunking here. Let's see if that works better. I'm hearing like this static sound. I'm not sure where it's. Something because it's not moving. I don't know. Maybe it's just some sort of noise gate issue or something. Well, wait a minute. I'm off. Or am I on? Hang on. All right. Am I on here? Well, it looks like this microphone is off. I'm not sure what's happening. May have hacked it. Test. Oh, it's not working. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Test. All right. For some reason, this microphone isn't working at all. Testing 1, 2, 3. Let me go into settings. All right, here we go again. Okay, there, the microphone is working better with that. Something happened to the volume there. I switched out the plug here because I couldn't find my extension cable. I used a connector for 2 USB-C cables, and I don't know, threw it off somehow. Went to my backup gear. So again, they're always moving witchcraft. So then the evil eye part of it, where they're in close and they start whammying stuff. Again, they do that to a community of black people, and I say that because they also do it to a community of white people. But I say that because that's the prevalent use of it for racist reasons. And again, a white guy that's civil rights minded will be attacked. Again, the officers went through a period of time where they needed civil rights, and they kind of backed off of that a little bit. But, you know, once it dies down a little, then they all go out. You know, nobody needs civil rights. You're a liberal if you're into civil rights. Again, it's all bullshit on their part. Ronald Reagan absolutely believed in people's rights, and Trump does not. What Trump believes on is trampling on everybody's right that he wants to, and then giving a hyper level of rights to himself and his close-knit circle. What Trump does, he takes what God does and say that he's giving it to you, and then you all worship him instead of God. And Trump's not the only one. There's other people that do it also. And then he also, what he does is he uses Satan to cause discomfort in your life, and then point at somebody and say it's that person over there. Again, that attracts, even if he doesn't point at black people, we're saying he has in the past. He's just very deceptive on how he does it. He'll only connect to that vibration like once every year or something like that, or a couple times a year. So you can't put your finger on it, and then make you forget about it with witchcraft over the next few months. So again, that's how he does it. So if you were to like collect his racist remarks and tweets, you'd only see a few a year. But if you go back, 8 years, you'd probably find a bunch. Maybe even longer than that now, 10 years. So another thing that's happening, again, I can't tell if it's Satan or not. And they go, well, why isn't it God? Because it's not anything that's going to get me anywhere. It's not a benefit to me. It'd be nice if it was real. But they're bringing these women around me, and it could be Satan, but it could also be, it could be Satan and their spells, or it could be them physically. Each one has children, or I guess they're children. The one's child, if it is a child, is probably pretty much older. But what they'll do is, if I begin to speak to that woman, there'll be a lot of money changing hands, and they say, and they want the whole thing to say, well, he's going after the children, he's going after the young people. And this is the scam they've been into for decades. And any available woman without kids is much too young. But they all come up as something, which means either Satan is working in their mind, or it's something physical, and probably both. They'll pay their stay here at the hotel if they'll operate. It's not a normal informant situation. It's not even a advanced psychological test. It's fraud, scam. It would be fraud, waste, and abuse, but it's fabricated statements, fraud in the United States, and also your local and state communities. Nobody, I brought nothing on myself, and they go, well, we don't know anything about 5 years ago. Bullshit. You're a criminal enterprise, racketeering, RICO. Your installation is not that it's a simple lead. You have an obligation to investigate everybody based upon my statements and what has actually occurred over the last 20, 30 years. It's like saying that the most proven case in the United States doesn't have to be real or known about or realized in a current operation because you didn't do it. It's like admitting your ignorance to what you're actually doing. Your system's broken, and it's broken on purpose. All of you, just like they don't want to end chases, because the chase is how they kill some of the victims of the criminal enterprise. Psychologically operate them, and when they think it's ready, they pull them over, and then they shoot them or beat them up or whatever it is, and say they did something. Even if they did something, it's uncontrollable at that point. So if you give up the chase and they don't have that outlet. Now, they used to pull me over, but, they got it on, officer, they get it on officer cam and all that. So, well, they don't want it. Because, hi, yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir. They don't want that in the record. Again, they erased and shredded so much exculpatory information. They should all be in prison for life for it. Really, they should. I mean, these cases involve people being killed with psychological methods that are intended to kill them. Oh, he took his own life. She took her own life. They got very paranoid in Santa Fe when there was a suicide where I lived. God told me to get out of there because it was safe, for the day. So I went out and went about my business, and I made sure they were gone before I got back. But apparently the people who went to investigate it were the people that were part of the assassination. So I came up out of my apartment just as it was beginning. And boy, you should see the looks on their face. Because I was the guy who was telling them, hey, look, you're suiciding people out. And then they suicided someone out right where I lived. I noticed they were stalking me that day. That's not strange behavior. Strange behavior is what you're doing to me. That's why they support Trump. They want to kill people and get away with it. They don't want to ever go to jail for what they've done in their lives. And some of that is rape. Some of that is child molestation. Some of that is murder. Because what they're doing is teaching them that they're above the law. So then that, anything that would have normally stopped them from killing George Floyd or something like that no longer exists. So actually, Chauvin could sue the system for putting him in that predicament. Now, anybody that's normal knows you don't put your knee on somebody's neck and do that, but they created that monster. In fact, even if it was like an approved way of restraining someone, again, you have to put input into it. I'll tell you what, it's a very snotty day. I don't know what happened with the allergens last night. Probably mold or something crept up. Walked outside. I was like, faucet turned on. But I got back on my Allegra. Back in their prayers and well wishing, even if it's only Father God. Sometimes on earth you have to articulate something. That's part of the power of prayer, the power of words. So if I don't say it, God can't help me. So again, does God need you to say something? No, obviously Jesus said God doesn't need you to say something. So what is that? That's them reversing the entire thing. They're reversing the Bible. Jesus tells you not to say too much, and if you don't say too much, you don't have it. If you don't say enough, then you don't get anything. That's how they do it. They do it to me in my regular life. They watch it and then try to reverse requirements. No, they intentionally block that paycheck. There's no doubt. And they laugh about it. Well, laugh in hell. You're going to laugh in hell. Because you're going to be so fried in the brain. Like those people you see laughing out there, right? All that psychological illness, all that mental illness that you all cause is going to visit you in hell. What do you think happens in hell? Everything that you've done to somebody here. And again, there is forgiveness here, but not for any of you. The Bible is very clear about it. So what you do is you create the boogeyman LGBTQ by operating them psychologically for decades. You know, the gotcha. Get them to step over a line and then say gotcha. And I guess the air here isn't that good. I mean, I'm not interested in like a lifetime stay here at this point. I mean, maybe I'll settle in and it'll be changing, but you know, I'm not going to run off right now. And they got them mad because I started paying off my debt. My credit started rising, and they're that involved in my life. And they go, well, he's going to use the money for criminal activities. Bullshit. So like the methods are supposed to be used against Russia, they use against everyday Americans, and then the Russians run around making millions of dollars and paying them. That's why Trump has so many top supporters, because they both work for the Russians. And that's why Russians run around this country rich and we run around poor. Because these pieces of shit in government, these pieces of shit in the private sector sold the nation to foreign entities such as United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Ukraine, Russia. Democrats are not above it. I tell you that every time. They care less about us. But they're here to help us, right? Pretty weird. We got vehicles that break down over here like every day. I think it's I'll make it work. Unless they're prepared like a heavy load or something. Oversized. There's not pointing like an arrow telling them to go over the side. I guess that's what it's for. Should have an arrow. Oh, I guess it doesn't have an arrow because they're in the middle lane. That should still have an arrow telling them to go over. I guess that would confuse traffic. If I make it snarled. That's the second vehicle in a few days that broke down at the same spot. Just about. So again, their operation is designed not to test paranoia, but cause paranoia. Paranoia to the point of mass shooting. No, it's not testing anymore. It's degrading psychological health. That's why the nation has degraded psychological health. But that person that does that is called a narcissist. It's called a sociopath. So I have no idea who these women are that are showing up in my periphery, but unless they engage, then they're useless. And even then, it'd be limited belief of who they really are. And really, in today's society, even if they weren't with the government like that, and again, the government say, well, we don't have anything to do with that now, your cronies are who your cronies are, and they got government contracts and everything else just to put these things together to save your ass from going to prison for life. But even without all of that, people are just such self-serving pieces of shit. Even if they were independent, it seems like they're not speaking to them, someone would be interested in paying them money, and all of a sudden they become queen of the ball, no matter who they are. They did to my mother and my wife too. They make them the queen of the ball. I'm like, what did you think? You're like, my mother came back to her sentences like a day after, and she said she couldn't control it. She's like, okay, I'm ready for him to come home again. I'm like, no, we have to release him. So she started fighting with them. And she was so afraid because this guy had her. The guy that she was with, that talked her into it. My brother's brother-in-law. He was tried for fraud or something. He was acquitted, but he's probably guilty from what I see. I never met the guy before in my life. And then he had hands on her credit cards, and all of a sudden she's all panicked. Well, it is. My stepfather was dementiated. He was becoming not dementia. He was had Alzheimer's at that point. So he stepped in as that man. You know, there were no sex, but you know, he was connecting and feeling, and she was feeling. And I was like, "What are you doing?" When I came out with the officer, she's got her hand on her hip like she's ruling. I'm like, "Ah." And then the ACLU wouldn't take. The big thing is the ACLU wouldn't take the case. That's when it all fell apart for all of them. Because if they took the case, then there was a way to fix it. Otherwise, there's no way to fix it. Right? A perfect ACLU. So there will be no president from Jersey ever. Ever. We're working on Florida and Texas now. No president from Florida or Texas ever. New Jersey, there is no president that will ever be from New Jersey, ever. So when I got my plate, right, I'm like, did I spell this right? I was like, you know, this is really a psychological byproduct of somebody interfering in my life and blocking that plate. It's not normal. You go in, you go on the state site, it says the plate's available, you go in and you get the plate. Unless some weird thing happens and somebody actually applies for the plate. So I'm like, did I spell this? I kept looking, I'm like, and their spell is there too. Again, that's a same thing. I was looking at the spelling because they spelled it, you know. So again, this is altering, you know, that maybe 1% of your day, but it caused that 1%. Then the next thing they do another 1%. Then the next thing another 1%. There's no shutting up involved in it. And no, don't let them tell you that they're different than the other people that did it. And no, don't let them tell you that I did something so bad that they can't stop. Again, these are the scams, the frauds that they engage in daily, and they're also in the DOJ, they're also in FBI, DHS. You speak to the coworker if you were an inside person, they might speak to you, but I don't know how bad it is now. I mean, I used to speak to coworkers about things, nothing heavy. I mean, I wasn't awake, but you know, they run around making up stories. So again, like I told you, the people I worked in the Marshal Service were trying to get me to be a pedophile, trying to get me to go with younger and younger women by opening that door. They had realized that, no, you don't do that in Larry's world. Larry looks for somebody that's within a few years of his age. In fact, I don't even know how that one girlfriend I had got involved with me, because she's 24. Her friend walked up and worked it. I had nothing to do with creating that relationship. I didn't even know that they were there. I didn't notice them. I was at some bar that was close by with a heavy metal band. They happened to be with the bassist or something. And they said, hey, and that was it. I started dating her, but they began operating right away. I believe they also drugged us. I know they do. The only question is which drugs they use. I mean, it's the New World Order. They were going to take over, right? Including my coworkers, and all of a sudden, you know, they all got promoted and all this. Some, yeah, you know, they that had value as a promotion. They were worth it, but there's enough that would have never been anybody in the government to realize what they're actually doing. So again, even if somebody's promoted because they're good. They're not because, but even if somebody's a good criminal investigator and they're promoted, it doesn't necessarily mean that good criminal investigators are getting promoted. It just happens to be that they're part of it, you know, and they have done somebody dirty. Again, I wasn't the only one that was done dirty. There was a supervisor that was done dirty, and a lot of them were part of that. That was previously to that. And then, of course, Jonathan Luna, you know, Mark. Yeah. When they were doing it, all of a sudden, they'll say it's like an undercover operation. But again, it's an assassination, CIA level technology, CIA taking somebody out because they don't fit in with the Murder Inc. or murder.gov, should I say. So they take them out if they can. Now, if you got a good wife and you're awake, you probably have, like, I don't know who Jack Smith is, but Jack Smith could actually be an independent operator within, as far as, you know, a good person within the DOJ. I don't know if he is or isn't, which means he's real. And he was able to stay because he had a good life. He had protection. He was awake, had maybe a good wife, good parents, and he was able to, not become that. I mean, the jury's out on him. I can't tell you from here whether he's good or evil. But there are some individuals that can make it through. Now, another thing is your coworkers. If you're generally, our office is probably too big to, again, I take that back because big offices could have cells of good people. We didn't have cells of good people. We had people that weren't going to do it to me, but they're not going to help me either. So again, in a larger office, Northern Oklahoma, I don't know if it lasted, but apparently they had put up a wall against government or against headquarters. They came in wanting to investigate. Nobody saw anything. Nobody knew anything because they knew what it was. It isn't that they're crooked and are not going to, tell the truth. It's just they knew what they were there to do, and it's actually a federal crime to do what they were doing. You can only test people so far. And that's also the amount of time that you do it before you cause the damage. And then, of course, most of it, if not all of it, is intentional damage. So again, what's happened here is your rookies are now being moved forward, and they, in their mind, they're going to get a good job, maybe, or a big job. The reality is, there are certain people that if they know you operated me, you're not going to get anywhere because they can't trust you. They bring you into their investigation, and then you screw it all up because you're operating for somebody, or even operating for yourself. Now, they like to call it the game of life, but that's, it's absolute bullshit. It's a game of Satan? No, it's Satan. It's the beast and worse. Feel that train there. It's got some weird stuff connected to it. Now, you can't say I'm not trying to live life. I can. I mean, obviously, I try to get an apartment. I can't get an apartment. I'm not going to have a girlfriend. If you psychologically operate and physically operate and pay people to keep me out of an apartment, you're going to keep me away from a woman. And if I begin with that woman, she's going to lie about me because she wants that extra money. So again, you women have to understand something. I'm not part of that world. The transgender. I'm in the middle trying to help people. So the transgender and the Republicans could come together closer so we don't expend all that negative energy trashing both sides and everybody else in the name of both sides. So again, the idea is this, that it's an egregious violation of reality in what they're doing. So you don't get discredited for me not having a woman because I won't go after your bait woman or the woman that you're going to pay $10,000 to. But I'll tell you this right now. Women are failing because of this operation that you're engaged in. It's not just me. It's a lot of people. That's why you have increased gay people. That's why you have increased people not getting married. So they operate an individual with their, women or men or whoever it is for a period of time with this particular operation. They give up on seeking somebody. Even like the agents that took a woman home or dated her for a period of time to make her believe she found her love, and then effed her off once I, moved on or I wasn't interested anymore. And what they do is they psychologically operate them online and in other places to make them believe it's my fault. So they'll never go back to me. They contributed to people not getting married. So again, there's a group of people on the planet, the haves, as they call themselves, or whatever it is, but there's poor people that are like that. They are causing this every day. Another woman, another man operated by a piece of shit government or private sector criminal. It's operating psychological warfare for their own self and group gain. But again, everybody's losing, the planet is diminishing, and it will be destroyed. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you